Ryan Lake was a guest on here many, many times over the course of the 2 or 3 years right after I started the show. He was also one of my very closest friends for about 17 years. Last year, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and just under 2 weeks ago, he passed away. I know for a fact that he wasn't in any pain at the end. He was um, comfortable and, physically surrounded by people who loved him and, touching him. And yeah, I wrote a essay for the Substack called Knowing Ryan Lake. We'll put the link to that in the description for this clip. Um, but it was just kind of a prolonged reflection on all those years of friendship and all the ways that knowing him shaped me. The cover image on my first book, the one that has the same title as this show, was drawn by Ryan, and it was his idea after he read the draft of my book. That image of David Hume hushing Ben Shapiro for talking about facts and feelings in a way that shows that he doesn't understand the logical gap between facts and values. It is a small sign of how big a part of my life Ryan was for a very long time, that I didn't even mention that book cover in my Substack essay. I just didn't think of it. There was so much else I was trying to fit in, literally decades of memories. So, as obviously inadequate as it is as a tribute, and as much as we should, do something much better at some point than this, for the clip tonight, we're going into the archives to play one of me and Ryan and our friend Mark Warren. You can also see our very first producer, Forrest, at the beginning, and my buddy Gene Bajalan is also there. But mostly it's me and Ryan and Mark talking about Sam Harris. And specifically in this clip, we're talking about Sam Harris's book on free will. Ryan wrote his dissertation about free will when we were in grad school, and certainly thought harder about that topic than anyone else I know, and was a huge influence on my thinking about it over the years. So he was an obvious choice as a guest for this segment. But also I can't watch the clip without thinking about all the God knows how many hundreds or thousands of hours that me and Ryan and Mark spent shooting the shit about philosophy, politics, hockey, girls, movies, just whatever, right? Over the course of the years that we spent together in Miami. This is basically the digital version of that in a lot of ways. And what it really makes me think of, this is post Miami, right? This was 2016, so I guess 5 years before this episode was recorded in 2021. I remember, somewhere in New England, I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was the week of Mark's wedding. And one of those nights, that we were there for the wedding, I could remember, it was dark, sitting around the porch outside, like the main house, with Ryan and Mark, and having a drink and having a very long, sort of half joking, half serious conversation about our many objections to Sam Harris and his views, and how the three of us should start a podcast called Sam Harris is Wrong About Everything. Obviously, that never ended up happening. I don't know how seriously I took that at the time, but I think I did find out that Mark actually went so far at one point as to register a domain name for a website for that podcast. But at least we did do the episode of this show called Sam Harris is Wrong About Everything in 2021 that this clip is from, and showing you the segment from that episode about Ryan's area of specialization is about as close as I can figure out how to come while we're on break from the main show to pouring one out in the man's memory. I had a complicated relationship with him, during parts of the last couple of years of his life, but the man was like a brother to me, and I really loved him. And I'm going to stop talking now, because if I don't stop talking, I am going to start crying, and then I'd have to start recording this little pre-recorded intro again from scratch. So I'm not going to do that. So enjoy the clip. Ryan Lake in 2021. So for the sake of time, let's move on to the free will stuff. He does the same thing here that he does in the moral case, which is that he takes the part of the philosophical debate about free will and determinism that's the most controversial is how should we understand what would count as free will. And he has a certain intuition about that, and he just runs with it, and he's very dismissive of anybody who has any sort of argument that he's wrong about it, in much the same way that he has a certain kind of intuition about morality being maximizing well-being, whatever exactly that means, and he's very dismissive of anybody who has any non-consequentialist view of morality. But I think in particular in what we're about to see, he has he has an argument that actually might change Ryan's mind. So Ryan is starting out disagreeing with Sam Harris about free will. Ryan has a position called compatibilism. But I think that when you hear this business about movies, then you're gonna change your mind.
Let's run a little experiment. Just close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. And now think of a movie. Maybe one you've seen, or just one you know the name of. Right? It doesn't have to be good. It can be bad. Whatever comes to mind. Doesn't matter. And pay attention to what this experience is like. A few films have probably come to mind. Just pick one. And pay attention to what the experience of choosing is like. Now, the first thing to notice is that this is as free a choice as you are ever going to make in your life. Right? You are completely free. You have all the films in the world to choose from, and you can pick anyone you want. And you can pause this audio and take as long as you want. Now, let's do that again. Right? I want you to become sensitive to this process. So forget the first film and choose another. And again, pay attention to what you actually experience here. What is it like to choose? What is it like to make this completely free choice? You got a new film? Okay. Do it one more time. Right? Just clean the slate, think of a few more films, and choose one. Did you see any evidence for free will here? Because if it's not here, it's not anywhere. Right? So we better be able to find it here. So let's look for it. Well, first, let's set aside all the films you've never seen or heard about and whose names and imagery are unknown to you, right? Needless to say, you couldn't pick one of those. And there's no freedom in that, obviously, because you couldn't have picked one of those if your life depended on it. But then there are many other films whose names are well known to you, right? Many of which you've seen, but which didn't occur to you to pick. For instance, you absolutely know that The Wizard of Oz is a film, but you just didn't think of it. And if you thought of The Wizard of Oz, apologies, right? But you get my point. You can swap in The Seventh Seal or Mission Impossible or The Deer Hunter there. And if you're hearing this for the first time and you thought of all those films, well, then we really are living in a simulation. And it's all about you, apparently. So consider the few films that came to mind, right? In light of all the films that might have come to mind, but didn't. And ask yourself, were you free to choose that which did not occur to you to choose? As a matter of neurophysiology, your Wizard of Oz circuits were not in play a few moments ago. For reasons that you can't possibly know and could not control, based on the state of your brain, the Wizard of Oz was not an option, even though you absolutely know about this film. And if we could return your brain to the state it was in a moment ago and account for all the noise in the system, adding back any contributions of randomness, whatever they were, you would fail to think of the Wizard of Oz again and again and again until the end of time. Where is the freedom in that? It's important to see that whether the universe is fully determined or it admits of randomness, the picture is the same. Okay, determinism gives you no freedom, obviously. It would just be mere biochemical clockwork. But randomness gives you no freedom either. If you knew that your next choice of a film would be the result of a random process, some quantum roll of the dice, that would be the antithesis of what most people mean by free will. There's no will in that. And if that same random influence appeared 1 trillion times in a row, just by chance, you would think of the same film 1 trillion times in a row, just by chance. I mean, no matter how we think about causation, whether things are determined or random, or some combination of the two, there's no place for you as the conscious subject to stand that isn't downstream of causes that you can't inspect or anticipate. Everything is just appearing in consciousness. Again, focus on the experience here. You can forget about the metaphysics. Free will is an enduring problem for philosophy and science for one reason. People think they experience it. They feel they have it. Do you experience it? Again, if it's not here, it's not anywhere. Right? The only constraint you've been given is to think of a film. And you can pick any one you want. And you can take as long as you want. It is likely that every other choice you have made in your life has been more constrained than this one. What job to take, who to marry, whether to have kids, who to vote for. Most choices in life are much more obviously constrained by other variables than this one. So if you're not free to simply pick a film right now, I don't know where you're going to find free will anywhere in your life. So really pay attention to the experience.
Okay, Ryan, do you feel silly now?
Yeah, I don't know what I've been thinking about. I mean, if you're not going to find free will in randomly thinking of a movie, where are you going to find free will? I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, this example, I mean, and again, this is an example of how, and I'm sure people have made this objection to him. I know people have. He always goes to this kind of example. In the last debate breakdown we did with him a while ago, he had, I think it was think of a country or think of a city at random, and yeah, I mean, he'll always say this, like, this is the sort of idea that motivates free will. If you can't find free will here, where is it going to be? And so, like, I don't think he said it right in that clip, but he has like he asserts that he has like two ideas about what the common sense notion of free will involves. And one is the idea that we could do otherwise than we actually do. And the other one is the idea that we are the conscious source of all of our thoughts and all of our actions. So it's the second one that's really coming into play here. And I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, where does he get the idea that people even think that they are going to be the conscious source of which movies pop into their head, or just in general, which thoughts ever pop into our head? And like, this kind of example is especially frustrating because it's such an arbitrary and meaningless thing. Like, I have no reasons to think of one movie rather than another. There's no one's ever going to praise or blame me for choosing The Wizard of Oz over Chinatown or whatever dumb examples you want to what you want to get at. It's not the kind of decision that philosophers are ever talking about when they're talking about the kinds of things that actually motivate the concept of free will. When philosophers are talking about free will, they're talking about the kinds of situations where we actually do have reasons to care about one decision over another, and where the choice might actually reflect something deep about our character and who we are and what we value. And where there could actually be one good reasons to choose one or the other, where someone might actually praise us or blame us for what we're doing, where we're actually going to engage in deliberation. So I know this just seems, he's setting up like a crazy straw man. He's like, I find it hard to imagine that anyone would listen to this and be like, oh yeah, you've showed me that I didn't choose which movie popped into my head, therefore I don't have free will. I mean, it's particularly bizarre that he says that if you don't have it here, you don't have it anywhere. Yeah, because this is just transparently not the kind of thing that people are usually thinking of, regardless of what their position is on free will, when they talk about free will, right? Like, I've never seen a free will skeptic use this kind of example, even when free will people. I mean, there are a lot of people, and I do want to emphasize this, like free will skepticism is a reasonable view on free will. And like, there are good arguments for it. I've never heard a skeptic use this kind of example though, as like an example of freedom. Like, this is just not what anyone has in mind.
There are likewise good arguments for utilitarianism.
Yeah.
And moral realism in general, just not those.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could reflect on you can frame this by asking yourself, like, what decisions in the past would you be most disturbed upon learning were actually not free decisions? If I learned that, for example, when I picked any card, that I was actually subtly being manipulated by the magician to pick the 2 of diamonds, that would not disturb me at all. I mean, maybe it would piss me off a little bit, but not really. But if I learned that, like, my decision to have kids or to move to Buffalo, New York, or to join the DSA, if I learned that those decisions weren't decisions that I had any say in, that I wasn't in control of those decisions, that would be really disturbing.
Yeah, that's right. If you thought, I mean, the thing that's missing here is, like, this is not a situation where reasons come into it at all. And those are the kinds of decisions that are paradigmatically we think of as free decisions, are the ones where we're applying our reasoning processes, where we are sensitive. I mean, philosophers who both agree and disagree with the idea of free will will agree the paradigmatic example is the one where we are actually sensitive to reasons and responding to reasons. Whether that's completely sufficient to ground the kind of free will we want, that's debatable. But this kind of example doesn't even begin to touch the issue. Like, doesn't even come close to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the kinds of so to pick somebody who is a philosopher who's completely outside of the tradition of the way that that I think about free will, which is mostly been a result of knowing Ryan. But I have Jean-Paul Sartre, right? In his essay "Existentialism as a Humanism," his example of a free decision in that essay is about a student who came to him during World War II to say that he was wrestling with whether to stay with his elderly mother. His mother's only remaining source of support, and she really needed him to stay and take care of him, or whether he should go join the French resistance, to drive out the Nazis, which he felt like he had a patriotic duty to do. And also, I think one of his brothers, his brother had been killed by the Nazis. And he didn't know what to do. Sartre, by the way, gave him the least helpful possible answer, which is you just have to figure it out for yourself. But thinking about an example like that, right? Yeah. The whole point is that the student has really strong reasons for both alternative courses of action, and in fact, they're both so strong that he's incredibly torn between them, and different philosophers will disagree about what it would take for whatever decision he made in that scenario to count as free will, right? So one view, which a lot of compatibilists, people who think that even if everything's determined, so given the exact same starting point, he'd always come to the same decision, that's compatible with it counting as a free decision, it being under his control in whatever way it takes for it to make sense to praise or blame him, that they think those philosophers might think like this is a popular version of compatibilism, that like all it really, that like what we mean when we say that you're acting freely, that your decision is under your control in the right way, is that your reasons responsive mechanism, in other words, your ability to understand and be moved by reasons for and against, different courses of action, is what was, that was what was in charge of your action, in the right way. Whereas other philosophers who are incompatibilists, who think that if everything was determined, it's not free, might say, well, no, that you have to be.
In addition to being responsive to reasons, you've got to add. Yeah,
you've got to add other conditions, and those other conditions are going to be incompatible with determinism. That like that the reasons that move you ultimately have to originate with you in the right way, in a way that they wouldn't be really, really from you if they arose from a chain of cause and effect that started, before you were born. For example. Yeah. And fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But that's like a really interesting, really difficult philosophical debate. But like this is like one short step away from saying that if you don't get to decide what you dream about, you don't have free will.
I didn't really understand what the example. I mean, you guys have actually explained why it was a silly example, but like when he was talking, I was like, what is he on about? Like, picking a movie. It's like, what do I want for dinner tonight? You know what I mean? It's like, it seems such a banal example to discuss the meaning of free will.
Well, it's even worse though, because when you pick what you're going to have for dinner, at least you might have reasons for choosing one restaurant.
Yeah, at least some minimal reasons. Yeah, it's so bizarre that he literally says like, this is the sort of decision that motivates the idea of free will. And that's just not true for anyone who's ever thought for 2 seconds about free will. This is
it has echoes of his worst misery experiment, in that he's like, think of this thing, don't look over there.
Yeah.
Think about this. Only think about this.
It is like a stage. I think Forrest was saying this before we did the show. Like he has a very strong like stage magician vibe. It's like, look over here. Don't pay attention to where the real work's going on. Just look at my hands over here, and then
And then he says, as soon as you admit that this thing is the way that I have described it, then you've given up the game for everything else I need you to assume to, right?
Yeah, I mean, like this is literally, you're not like it. Like there's no will in
exactly.
Like, forget whether it's free or not. There's no will in which movie rises to the surface of your thoughts, and nobody thinks there is any will in that. Like it doesn't like forget whether it's free will or unfree will. There's just no will, that if you're deciding what to have for dinner, you're at least making a decision, whether it's a free decision or not, but like there's no decision, and nobody thinks that there's a decision when it comes to like which movie bubbles to the surface of your mind.
Yeah.
It's
very bizarre. It's a very bizarre straw man. Like the idea that if you
intellectual of our age, Ryan. Yeah. Intellectual of our age. He's definitely the weakest out of the new atheists. Definitely the weak link.
Yeah.
By a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, Dawkins embarrasses himself, and Hitchens shamed himself.
Yeah.
But at least
they also they both made real intellectual contributions to discourse, at least in some areas.
Right. And Dawkins used to come to my bar, and he's a good tipper.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. He will ever have a place in my heart. Yeah. So we get a £5 note for us. So.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, Dawkins is a real, serious evolutionary biologist, and also one of the most talented popularizers of evolutionary biology ever. Great writer, very good at, popularizing, scientific concepts from his field. A little dumb when he wanders outside of his field, but very good at that at least. Christopher Hitchens obviously was a amazing writer and a very like thoughtful and perceptive thinker in many areas. Even if, yes, he shamed himself with some of his late in life foreign policy positions. And Daniel Dennett, like, is the least exciting of the four, but I think also should get credit for being the only one of the four horsemen who doesn't seem to be like a huge asshole in any way.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it quite a striking statement that, he was the weakest of those four guys, and now he's like the king, he's like the most intellectual member of the intellectual dark web. Like he's like compared to Peterson compared to Peterson, he's like positively
he's a genius.
He just Daniel Dennett just put out a book with Greg Caruso about this exact topic that we've been
I was just gonna mention that, how much I resent you because I was before this week I was just starting to read the Caruso Dennett book, and it's like real high level discourse between two of the top level people arguing between compatibilism and incompatibilism, and then I had to stop that and go immerse myself in Sam Harris rhetoric on the free will problem.
Yeah, which and it's also remarkable. I think I looked it up once. Like I did a quick search within the document, and that like 50-page free will book that Harris wrote, the word compatibilism appears like twice, 3 times in there.
And he strawmans compatibilism so badly where he does mention. I mean, literally, and it's clear. It's like this is a dig. It feels like he does it. And I know Dennett took it this way, that he compares compatibilism to theology, and he does that as like a dig directly at his friend Dan Dennett, and it's just like strawmanning and being a dick about it.
Well, and he also says that like compatibilism is the view that a puppet has free will if it loves its strings.
Yes.
Like is like literally just like, okay, there are views about free will according to which whether you see your decision as being free is relevant in some way, but also that's not like the only or even the main compatibilist position. Like if you have views like the ones we're talking about, where what really matters is reason's responsiveness, your will, your ability to understand and be moved, by reasons for and against different forms of action, to deliberate. None of that has absolutely anything to do with how you conceptualize what you're doing,
Exactly.
So it's just it's silly. He's bad, and he should feel bad about the world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's as good an in conclusion as we're going to come to. I know that Mark needs to go feed his children, so.
Sorry.
Andrew's right. I do get fired up about compatibilism. This is the one thing in life I get passionate about.
Hockey.
Yeah.
Wellness is when you have to feed your children and leave your podcast.
Weakness is when you have to leave your podcast.
That's right.
Nothing but podcasting.
Yeah. No,
I know. This seems like a situation where you should eat the baby so the podcast can keep going.
Oh, by the way, actually, that's a good reminder that our graphic designer, J. Andrew World, made a quick little image of me getting ready to eat a baby in response to that earlier Paris clip.
That could be Mark getting ready to eat his baby instead of feeding it.
No philosopher would have a problem with this.
No.
It's beautiful, Ben.
This is actually in the Stanford Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
There's a baby eating entry where it says you should eat babies.
Yeah.
The conclusion, therefore, you should eat babies.
Yes.
If it will interfere with your podcast.
All right.
I'm going to go medicate my daughter. That was a pleasure, everyone. I really enjoyed it. Ben, hey, congratulations on your first year. It's been great. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having us for the season finale. This is great.
All right. Thanks, guys. Love you. See you soon.
Love you too.
Bye.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron exclusive post games on Monday nights, all of the patron exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.